everybody to the Bass Nerds. Excited to be here in New York. Second podcast of the day. I am Jody, and I am here with
Mark.
And I'd like you guys to introduce yourselves in maybe a one sentence of your role in the music world.
I'm Eric Cocco, fourth generation string maker in my family, Labella Strings. And we're here at our shop, the Guitar Shop NYC, located in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. Come by anytime. I'm here with one of my best friends and artist relations man for Olinto Basses, Mitch Friedman.
Woo!
Yay!
Throw the pennies.
I don't know exactly. It's odd having two guests at once that are, in slightly different arenas. String guy, bass guy, but I'm not sure where to start. But I would say, sounds like Labella strings have been around for a long time.
They have, yes,
long time.
And I think we could start there. How do you start a string company? What is that?
Oh boy, that starts a long time ago.
Okay.
That starts all the way back in Italy. We're documented making strings from old church records in Sale, Italy, which is in the Abruzzi region, in 1640.
Okay.
But we know the tradition goes way before that.
Okay.
Any written history, way before that. But shoot over to New York, hundreds of years later, my great-grandfather and his brother, Emilio, Olinto is my great-grandfather, Emilio, his brother, came to New York in the early 1900s, and eventually incorporated in 1920, but when they came here as immigrants, they were doing immigrant-type jobs, construction, everything, building bridges, but they always
didn't come straight here doing strings.
No, but that's a tradition they brought.
Oh.
And they were doing that in their apartment.
Oh, okay. I always imagined them doing they came here to do the strings.
Wow, some friend.
Yeah, right. I don't even know about his great-grandparents.
Best friend. Wow.
I thought we were
Brutal.
At least. We had a big metal foundry in that area in Italy, and they did also machinery and foundries and stuff. They were metal workers.
But doesn't the family history with instrument making and metalworking go as far as documentation goes before the 1600s with strings?
Yeah. My family also made bells, and that was recorded in 1060 AD.
Yeah.
The long fucking time ago.
Yeah, 1,000 years ago.
Crazy,
bells,
right?
brass, bells.
Wow.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's
So
insane.
yes, thank you for bringing that up. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The string tradition came over with them to get a little extra money. They were taking gut and twisting it and curing it, and then going off to the open air markets downtown in the immigrant neighborhoods, the old Jewish neighborhoods, Italian neighborhoods, Polish neighborhoods, and we're selling them to violin makers and cello makers. That tradition was hundreds of years old, as we made strings for Stradivari, Cremona, and Amati families.
That's dope.
So they just kept on grooving, and then this one family really needed the product, a lot of it, and said, hey guys, we need more. And they said, hey, we're very limited. It's just my brother and I in the apartment. And they gave them some startup money, and they started their factory, and it grew very, very quickly because there was a very high demand for musical strings.
What was the company, if you don't mind discussing it?
No, absolutely. Oh, the company? It was a family that owned a music store.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember.
And
the
they
name
just
of
wanted
them.
strings for their shop.
They did,
Wow.
and they got along really well with them. And they said, "Hey, look, we trust you. Pay us back." And actually, my grandmother was in touch with them until only 30 years ago.
Cool.
So yeah, she knew who they were, and everything would go visit once in a blue moon.
And then what were they making? What instruments were they manufacturing strings for at that time?
Fiddles, cellos, orchestral instruments primarily.
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then at what point did it start to? I imagine you were doing upright strings.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Look, the guitar boom came, right, and started really building, I guess, in the 40s.
Yeah.
Post-war. Mm-hmm. And we made strings for ukuleles as well, for Martin back then and all those guys. Then the introduction of different materials came into play, right? Like plain steel treble strings.
Yeah.
And those type of things. And interesting enough, at the old factory in Long Island City, Steinway was down the street. So, there was a relationship there. We didn't make the strings for Steinway, but they certainly introduced something to the music world that was very new, which was hexagonal core. It was actually octagonal. And
yeah.
my grandmother's
Yeah.
brother came back one time and was like, these guys are getting these strings from Mapes that have a hexagon core. You no longer have to put silk underneath the core, so nothing buzzes and stuff. Like, oh my God, let's try it. And they started using hex core, which was pretty revolutionary at the time.
So for guitar strings, Lobello would be like the first at least documented company who's doing hex core strings for guitars?
For guitars, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
When about
Did they do octagonal first?
No, they went. I don't know.
It was just
I don't
piano
know.
that did
The only
octagonal.
piano. They went, maybe it was easier to get the hex. There's a
Yeah,
bunch of
it's
companies
two
out
less
there.
sides.
Yeah, there's a bunch of companies who say they invented it. And they're-
Economical.
Yeah.
yeah, totally less
mad.
money.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bunch of companies right now saying that they invented it, which is complete horse shit. It was actually the piano.
Yeah.
The piano companies
Piano.
invented it
Interesting.
first,
Wow.
and it later came to guitars. But yeah, during that boom, so we were making a lot of acoustic guitar strings. We were the first company to make an electric guitar string without the wound G.
Yeah.
Right, like that string.
You're welcome.
Yeah, take that.
Notable players who
Yeah.
don't use the wound G?
Oh, a few here and there, right? Well, Jimi Hendrix was in the art scene here in the city for a long time, and my grandmother's brother Daniel was friends with Jimi Hendrix and would constantly give him strings,
Yeah.
and he would go down to Electric Lady and record with him. So, yeah, Lobello was part of that. People didn't know that,
That's too
here in
cool.
New York, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But being here in New York, you had all these musicians coming through, giving back a lot of feedback about strings. We would take that feedback, and the strings would evolve as they do today. Like stuff like Mitch and I do. We talk about stuff, and then the next week it's in our hands, and
Yeah.
we're making it.
It's fun.
So yeah, that's always been a huge part is artist input. You couldn't have a string company without artist
Yeah.
input. Period.
And that's where you come in these days.
Yeah, in one of the many facets.
Yeah, I guess we could talk about Olinto, right?
yeah.
Because you were saying how two people, right, different,
like-
but we come together
Yeah, I mean,
and work for our bass company.
Yeah.
Lobello has, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I met Eric maybe like 10, 11 years ago now, just through a friend who was like, you should check out these strings. Like, I wasn't using Lobello at the time.
Yeah.
And I thought they only made flat wounds.
Right.
And at the time I was using rounds. My buddy said, here, he tossed me a pack of the RX Nickels with the 118B.
Who's that?
Our buddy Tim Chan.
Oh, wow.
Of Unisound
Hong
in
Kong.
Hong Kong.
All right.
He
Tim.
came.
Oh, yeah.
I think he came and stayed with me, or was
Not personally, by the way, just through Bergantino.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, he's the man.
Our network of peeps.
Yeah, and he was just, I loved them, and he was like, oh, email this guy, and I didn't realize like who Eric Cocco was. I just thought like, oh, he's like a rep or something for the
Yeah.
company.
Rep.
And then I realized like,
But you are, right? Like, that's
well, that's the,
yeah.
no, I want to bring up an
I
important
was
thing.
born-
I'm the motherfucking governor.
Yeah, I mean, as a kid, like reading Bass Player magazine and seeing ads for Lobello, I have to say I imagined it being a bigger like empire than it's a family company, and I didn't get that impression from like what I had read and heard of
Sure.
Lobello. So I didn't even think I'd be talking to like a CEO of a company, or you know what I mean?
Right.
And he was like super chill and like, oh, so glad you love the strings. Like,
I like your
let's
impression.
hang out.
That's
yeah,
pretty good.
let's hang out. And then it just kind of went from there. I'm like, this guy's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And over time, it was just like we could just talk about stuff. And like he said, artist input. It's like if I'm like, hey, you ever try something like this? And he'd be like, let's try it. And then a week later, we have like something awesome that's new.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's like the coolest. As a bass player, it's like a fucking dream come true. It's like,
So it's like,
who wouldn't want that?
the synergy, right? So
Yeah.
we started. It all was through friendship. So when I first met James Carbonetti and Maz Hino at the 4th Street Cobra Guitars shop, everyone became fast friends, and everyone realized that it was like Dorco mania when it came to like instruments and strings and all that type of shit. So we had this great synergy. It grew. We started building basses in 2015. We wanted to go with the avenue of a P bass because that's historically what everyone was using was the flats. My flats with a P bass, whether it was Jamerson, Babbitt, or Duck Dunn. Those were the guys.
It
Jerry
was
Tremonti
also
even
starting to like come back into fashion
big time,
too.
big time.
Like there was a while
Yeah.
where like no one really wanted that anymore,
Right.
and then by that time it was like everybody was asking.
And that's all we made was a 4-string P.
Yeah.
And we just want to make the best version possible, paying the most homage to Leo Fender, but we went in a different direction. So we have a 1.5-inch half body, dual acting truss rod, we hand wind our own pickups, mix our own paints, do all that.
Yeah.
And it's been the same team for a long time. We just got a little bit bigger with the last recent move, and we have more team members now helping the process because we did grow quite a bit, and
that's good.
it's still growing. So we're a small, humble team, but I think we have the goods to make something hot.
Totally.
So going back to what you said about like Duck Dunn, Bob Babbitt, James Jamerson, like those guys were artists like using like almost exclusively
Absolutely.
labellas.
Yeah.
I was still having conversations with like Duck Dunn until a year before he died.
Wow.
So like he'd call up and he'd ask for strings and stuff like that, and Babbitt too, and all
And
those
the
guys.
famous story of Jamerson
Sure.
calling, was it your dad he called?
I think my dad was working there one summer and spoke to Jamerson back in the day.
Yeah.
Was like, oh, I broke my G string after 15 years, 14 or 15 years. What can we do to get it back together?
Yeah.
Can you solder? Can you do
Right,
this?
he
And-
wanted to mail it back to Labella and have them solder the metal back together.
'Cause he just
he
loved
didn't
that
have
sound.
to change his string.
He says all the magic and dirt are in these, and
Yeah.
I can't lose any of the magic.
That's so cool. I
so
love
amazing.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were just talking
So
about
what happened with the string?
Oh, he just hung up the phone on him.
It's like, buy another one.
Yeah.
No, we sent him some more strings.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you can't unbreak your string.
Right.
Yeah, it's hard to put that core back together.
And then his career ended a week later.
Oh, so
No, I'm
sad.
kidding. Yeah, that would be funny if that was the magic. Like, I lost it after that. We never heard from him again.
Skid Row for him. But yeah, the strings last forever. Those particularly do. We still make that set. It's called the original set in the same manner we made it in 1954.
wow, same like the same machines and stuff, or updated.
It's crazy. Since my family is so old, we've been doing this a long time, we do have machines from back then.
Wow.
The machines have evolved slightly because everything is still done with freehand.
Yeah.
No carriages.
Yeah, and you need to retool every once in a while.
Yeah. But the cores and the constructions and the materials are the exact
Yeah,
same.
that's the same.
Yeah.
And who engineered those? Like were those just original designs from your family? Or?
In the early 50s, I would say probably my grandmother's brother, Daniel, probably had a lot to do with that, or my great-grandfather.
So cool.
He hand-delivered to Fullerton in the early 50s a gross of guitar, pure nickel, which I have reinvented today and put on the market, and those original strings, a gross of those bass strings.
Yeah.
And Leo repaid him by giving him one of the original, I guess what would be called a broadcaster back then.
Mm-hmm.
And
Shit, really?
Yeah, and he commented, he was really big in the classical world, that guy, my great uncle, I guess it is. He goes, I don't know what I'm going to do with this piece of shit. And kind of disappeared into the ether.
Oh,
And I was like, oh my God, you snobby bastard, But Leo would tell him.
Nobody knew though.
No
Like,
one knew.
no
Not
one
at
knew
all.
back
How
then.
could you know in
Definitely
the early
not.
50s, especially back then? But Leo would tell him on occasion, would call him, and be like, listen, I think we have created the perfect marriage between my instrument and your strings. It is the sound. So Leo knew he had something really,
That's
really
sick.
good there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does he know?
Yeah.
Are they still using Labella today exclusively?
No. I think they had their own manufacturing operation, and then they went to one of my competitors,
Bastards.
Yeah, oh well, it's not the original, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, then let's get into.
Wait a minute, hold on. That's a good point. It's not the original, and yet those that being such a legacy brand with having so many people
Well said.
doing everything that they can to emulate that specific sound.
It's interesting, right?
We talk about transformers, direct outs,
said it.
microphones,
Yeah.
sound mixing consoles and stuff, but we never talk about the fucking strings.
Right.
And that is really interesting to me.
Yeah.
So was there a relationship with Gibson back in the 60s?
Gibson wasn't one of them, but we're the biggest supplier of factory strings to all the American guitar manufacturers for like 30, 40 years.
So Fender, Gretsch,
Gretsch definitely, Dan Electro.
Rickenbacker?
Rick, no, we never got Rick, and that was in the conversation that came up because we had a lot of Rick strings that my dad dug up from years ago. He's like, I know, we just didn't hit it off. You know, and I was like, oh, yeah, that shit happens. But like, for example, you bring up such an incredible point, right? So I just came out with these string called Labella Pure Vintage. These were the same pure nickel material and constructions we used when we made them for Fender and all these other major guitar companies that are now historical, iconic brands. People are chasing that vintage, unicorn, right? PAF pickups, this, the other. Well, experts will tell you, like, yo, man, you're missing the pure nickel sound that Labella provided those companies with on those guitars, on all those pop albums.
Yeah.
That is the missing link for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to reintroduce into the ethers. Like, hey guys, this is part of it. This is part. All these things they add up to this one big thing that you're looking for.
Yeah.
It's like a race car, right? All those parts add up to the sum of all those parts add up to a great racing car.
Super important part also
Absolutely.
in one's sound is like that's
And
the
feel.
thing that you're who
That
was
literally
even talking
makes
about
the sound.
this. Was it like maybe Scott's bass lesson? Somebody was talking about this, that you're not really playing the bass. You're playing the string that is attached to the bass. And the bass serves a function with its electronics and the wood that does this and that, but you are essentially playing a string to make the note come out. So it's like really
your first point of contact.
It's one of the, it's
your main
pretty
point of
interesting,
contact.
and it's like an afterthought a lot of times. Like, it's strings. Strings are strings.
It can be a set of tens, and I'm
Yeah,
good.
I used to do that also as a kid. It's just like, oh, whatever.
Who do I care?
Yeah, you
Well,
don't
when
even
you're
think about
16 and you don't have enough money to put a couple gallons of gas, you go for like whatever's cheapest, quick, whatever.
it. Yeah, but you
at
don't
a certain
really
point,
think about the differences.
right? You realize that like it's all, and when you really do sit and think, and you think about an instrument, like yes, the strings are as important as any other part on that instrument, and perhaps maybe more important than a lot of parts. Obviously, like any other, like control knobs and things like that.
Sure.
Like those things aren't going to necessarily really affect your tone at all. But your strings, pickups, wood material, stuff like that.
Or
all
if
play a
you're
role.
young and you're trying to emulate some other bass player, like I really want to sound like so and so. Instead, I would always think like I should get the same bass as them or the same amp. But I never thought like I should use the same strings that they use.
Right.
Like that happened later for me, but that was like a thought that came later.
So what was Jocko using?
He
Roto
used
sound?
rotos, right?
Rounds?
He was always a rotos guy. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Shucks.
Can't win them all.
Yeah.
He wasn't that good anyway.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
It's the
Whatever.
second dig at Jocko we've had today.
Really?
Yeah, we did one with Ben earlier. It was obviously it's a joke,
Right.
but is it?
Yeah.
It would have been cool to hear Jocko play flats.
Probably sounded pretty good.
Yeah.
It would have been great. Would have been
Hell
great.
yeah.
Yeah.
So where are you guys still manufacturing the strings over there and importing them over? Or?
No. I mean, once my great grandfather and brother were here, they were manufacturing here. They had opened up a small factory in their hometown in Italy before the war, and the war broke out and the trade embargo took place.
Yeah.
And he was like not even able to reach his 2 kids and wife. For about 3.5, 4 years. Or he didn't even know if they were alive. The first time he heard they were alive is when he received a letter from my grandmother saying, "We're alive, we're hungry."
No.
And yeah, she saw the Americans. She told me the story herself. She saw the Americans rolling through with the tanks through her town, and she stopped on the soldiers and was like, "Look, my dad's in New York, and I haven't spoken to him in like 4 years. Can you?" And he's like, "Your dad's from New York?" I don't believe. He's like, "No, I swear to God, he lives in the Bronx. He's there." And he's like, "Holy shit!" So she gave him a letter, and that's how they made their first communication.
Wow. Holy shit.
So at that point, my grandma has crazy stories. I mean, like, she told me, she's like, "Eric, I was shot at by the British, the Nazis, and the Americans."
Oh yeah, I have heard
and
some of these
I made it
stories.
all out. She was a really tough lady. She made it out alive, and that was her story to tell. But it was like that. That's the only time we ever manufactured overseas. Okay. Everything's made in New York for 120 years with American wire.
Okay.
So it's 100% American made with American product.
That's awesome. So, like, speaking of the toughness of your grandmother, I know that there's some stories about how tough your family really is.
God.
They go back as far as the 20s.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, of course. Historically speaking, when the big wave of Southern Mediterraneans came to the States,
Southern Mediterraneans.
There were some elements that were brought with them that weren't too savory, right? Like, of course, they call it the black hand back then. And, Hollywood glamorizes it, but it's complete horse shit. And a lot of Italians suffered from it greatly, including, my family had a particularly interesting experience with them in separate decades. You know, the first time when my great-grandfather and his brother were manufacturing strings in the Flatiron District, okay? And, this element would come in the network and say, oh, I think you need protection. And obviously they didn't. They were pretty tough guys. And they destroyed that factory, I think, once, maybe twice, because out of retaliation. But then they retaliated, and that's when they had to get the hell out of Dodge, and they moved to Long Island City.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, soon enough.
Like it's that far away.
Back then, it's so funny. Back then
it probably
might
was.
as well be Kansas, know. And then, later when the mafia really became, heavy-handed in the unions and were racketeering and extorting a lot of companies, a lot of Italian Americans, Greek Americans, all that shit. They had it with them, and they got really, really ugly, and they decided to head out and go to Newberg. And that was pretty tough. Oh, look who we have here.
Yeah.
Hi, James.
Come on in.
Right in time, babe.
Right.
Well, here. How you doing?
Good. Coming in.
You coming in over here?
Yes.
Well, here, I'm going to have Mark scoot over one.
Oh, this is perfect.
Because I want to share a mic with him.
It's all good.
Bro.
I think we're good. We're good. Yeah. You just take that guy.
All right.
So
here.
enter James
We'll do it
Carbonetti.
live.
Well, no.
Oh, shit.
You got to finish your story.
You're not off the hook yet.
I'm not off the hook. Okay. Well,
Hold on. We're readjusting.
oh my God. Okay, so yeah, we'll get a little weird. We'll get a little weird.
If you want to, and again,
We'll do the short end of the story. That's not too crazy, but still crazy
We
enough.
won't name names.
Hold
or
on.
anything.
Hold on.
Okay.
He's setting up. He's
Oh, he's saying
Yeah, I'm just adjusting camera here to add a dude.
What's up, dude?
How'd it go?
Guitar will be there Monday.
flawless exit.
Flawless victory.
Exactly.
Another guitar made and born.
Yeah.
Woof.
UPS?
Fuck yeah.
How much?
A lot.
Crazy,
But who
right?
cares? No,
I
it's
know.
not crazy.
No, I'm saying their UPS's
California.
prices have gone up like
How much do you
astronomical.
think?
The retail has, yeah.
To California?
Overnight.
Monday?
For
I'm
more?
gonna say 700.
5:30.
Oh my god!
It's fine.
It used to be so much less.
Overnight.
To overnight.
Oh, you
from
did.
where?
Oh, you
From here
overnighted
to-
it.
With,
California.
with
Oh, okay,
insurance.
overnighted.
It is what it is.
With insurance.
Hey, tis what tis, dude.
Yeah.
It's
Whatever.
it gets expensive.
All right, take two.
Yeah.
Part two of the
We're back.
Union racket.
Godfather
All
Part
right.
2.
So basically, shit, man.
Fredo's going out on the boat.
There was some major sabotage there within the family, and what happened is, the union / mafia had turned the whole workforce against us, and were picketing. Mind you, most of these people, my great-grandfather got a green card to work in the country, sponsored them, the whole thing. He would do that quite often. So that was a big backstabbing moment. But what happened was we couldn't enter or exit the building anymore. And a lot of companies started jumping ship, like manufacturers from all over the country. Customers stuck in there, but it was a really rough moment. We're probably going to go out of business, never to be seen again. My dad was driving in with the lights off into Long Island City from our little apartment in Manhattan at like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning to put orders together by himself, put them in boxes, and ship them out of his friend's loading dock.
So he was driving with the lights off, so they wouldn't see him coming.
Yeah.
He'd roll in with the lights off when he got close, because there were also mob spies, making sure that the
Oh,
place
for
wasn't
sure.
operating.
Yeah, of course.
And we got death threats too on the telephone all the time, saying they were going to kill us if we continued with it, and blah blah. But we had to put food on the table, so that's what he would do. And then one day he rolls up. One night he rolls up, and he sees there's a bunch of guys waiting for him with bats and chains, ready to kill him. And someone told him, ratted, saying, "Richard's been going in. Wait for him at this time. That's when he's been coming in to pack up the strings." So my dad got back, goes, "I think it's too hot. We got to get out. We got to go." So we went outside the radius of the quote unquote union, so they couldn't touch us anymore. And
The
that's where-
union.
Yeah. Well, what they did is they drove out commerce out of Queens and Brooklyn mainly. Like this part of Brooklyn and the Long Island City part of Queens, where it was giant industrial commercial buildings.
Yeah. Well, they
Like the
control
heart of manufacturing
the
in New York.
whole docking and
Oh,
red
sure.
book and everything.
Oh, yeah.
All the shipping.
Oh,
and-
everything, right?
Yeah.
So they killed that. They killed that in one fell swoop.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we decided to move to Newberg, and it's my father basically rebuilt the company from there, and then
A champion, Richard.
Yeah.
he
That
went
was,
through all
that
that
was
shit.
1980.
1980, 81, yeah. So yeah, we were able to do it, and we're still fighting.
I remember hearing a story that when in that time where he was driving in with the lights off,
Yeah.
you all were shipping in, you were fulfilling orders for Gretsch,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
'Cause you
sure.
were doing their bulk strings.
Absolutely. We're doing their bulk and retail. We still had a lot of the little Petri dishes with the velvet bottoms and everything for their flat wounds. We went as far as we could. We lost a lot of market share. We had the largest probably market share domestically. We had a huge share in Europe, one of the biggest in South America, still do. That's been kind of taken over by the Chinese a lot in South America. But yeah, we had to fight back for all that, from scratch almost. And that's been very difficult, but,
Yeah.
Thank God you did.
Oh, thanks.
Right.
Yeah, shit.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'd be doing now. Cleaning toilets, probably.
So there's a relationship here with this guy,
Yes, there is.
like an actual relationship.
Gone deep.
There is. We've been dating now for how long?
14 years?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to tell them the story?
Yeah.
Honey Bunny?
Well, introduce yourself first. Everybody's
My name is Jimmy Carbonetti, and I'm partners with this guy. We have the shop together, the Guitar Shop NYC. And yeah, we've been making instruments and a bunch of fun stuff together these days.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy, we're basically just brothers these days. And this guy,
Another person who you know.
this guy lives. He lives deep. But we have some fun here in the shop together, and we met in 2010 through our really wild Uncle Kirkiano. If you know him, you know him.
Yeah.
The legendary, and then also legendary, our cousin JoJo introduced us in a weird way after we were already friends. So we became buddies once I opened up Cobra Guitars in 2010.
Right.
And we just became very close, and then realized through our, cousin JoJo that we were basically, well, my brother was like, you guys have to hang out. You guys got to know each other since you make guitars and you make strings.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him that we've already been hanging out for weeks and
Yeah.
probably months at that point. It was just a weird,
after, yeah.
freaky East Harlem
So-
Italian connection.
So, but does it turn out that you guys are related?
So his,
Yeah.
I mean, through marriage and enough dinners,
So like basically.
In that order.
yeah.
Yeah, the Harlem thing
East
you
Harlem
mentioned
connection.
was his dad
Yeah.
and my father-in-law. They grew up down the street together.
And,
Yeah.
and your dad, was he a commissioner at some point?
Back in the day.
Police commissioner?
No, not police commissioner. CAU, just some
Yeah.
stuff in the city.
Okay.
And
My brother. I stayed out of politics.
Yeah.
I
Sort of,
I deal
that's how
with music
family
politics.
works.
Music politics,
in the
yeah.
blood, though. Like it's
Yeah.
You've never been a stranger.
You know,
It's in the blood.
it's got to be nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a mutual cousin.
Yeah.
Basically, we had a big laugh after that because JoJo was a huge character.
Oh man,
He was a huge character.
wild guy.
Yeah. God rest his soul.
So he was a little too wild.
Well, he died from cancer, but
Dude,
He lived
sorry,
the life.
no.
terrible.
Sorry, no, but
He made jokes
he
about
was
it all the time. He had the
a
thing.
wild motherfucker. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was one of
always
those
had
guys.
great outfits.
Great jogging suits.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's, we basically then were stuck together. I mean, because we were already really close friends, and then right after that, it was just, all right, let's get even weirder and deeper.
Yeah.
So, with moving the shop over the years, went from the East Village, then the Lower East Side to our buddy Robert James' menswear shop. Always only had labellas in the shop from the beginning. That was it. I've never had another string, never even thought of another string. That was that. And we've always just had our little, clubhouse. And then 2015, we opened up officially the guitar shop NYC. And that was just our umbrella of labella strings, Carbonetti, and Nolento.
It was such a great marriage. I mean, it's
Yeah.
currently.
Yeah.
But like, I loved. It was my favorite place to go whenever I would come here. 'Cause
Oh,
I
hell
always
yeah.
had this love-hate relationship with New York, where either I go and it's dog shit, or I come over here and I have an amazing time. And the times it was just because I would have a home base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All about
At the
home base,
shop.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it was. I mean, it's like this, Jody, where they're building shit in the back, and they're doing repairs, and they have all these crazy collector guitars that come through here, and then they have this retail space as well. It's just there's not many places like this at all.
It's like community and all that is very important to us, and we always say we're kind of like the UN of the music or instrument, business
Yeah.
because of, I also don't think there's ever been a partnership or a shop like this of such a legendary string company and me being a professional touring musician and a professional builder, all of those three things in one roof.
Right.
Yeah.
It just lends itself to there's enough common ground between players and makers and
You've got years of research and development
Yeah.
under your belt.
You do.
Just by
Yeah.
being a touring musician.
and
Also, just personality-wise, I've been living here a long time. I've been to every guitar shop in the city. I feel like there's a vibe when you come here, with the cast of characters.
Yeah.
It's there's just something different about it that
Yeah.
you just enjoy, being here.
And the first shop that I worked at, I feel like that is inspired the most when I was at Chelsea Guitars. That was all just, you never know who's coming in.
Yeah.
You just listen, and G. Smith would just be sitting in the shop all day telling stories of everything, and just the craziest guitar. That's where I learned about D'Angelico. Danny was such...
You're like a D'Angelico aficionado.
I'm a freak
Yeah.
of it. And now Jimmy D'Aquisto, he's, the next lineage of that. But with the premieres and just New York historical instruments made here, this was such a mecca of amazing luthiers. And
Still
you
is.
got to still keep it going,
You told him you had Jocko's bass in the shop there, right?
When I was at 30th Street.
Yeah.
I was there when that happened.
So this is after Base of Doom was obviously
No, this was-
finished. I mean,
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
After
Yeah.
you finish, yeah.
When it wasn't 100% clear, those who knew that was Jocko's bass, but a lot of people didn't realize that was
nobody
Jocko's
knew.
bass.
A homeless guy brought it in, but
Yeah.
not for me to talk about. But it was a cool bass to
okay.
play for a while.
Got
Sat on the couch
all
for
legal and shit.
ages.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Played the hell out of it.
The
Yeah.
Base of Doom?
The bass.
Yeah. When
Jocko's bass.
I was working at 30th Street.
I love how casual you guys are about shit like this. We're that's the thing. Every
Is it cool fretless?
Every every New Yorker I've talked to, born here, you all are so casual about all of these things. It's just like, yeah, you know, like this person, oh, the Bass of Doom was just sitting on a couch, no big deal. It's like,
Yeah.
They let everyone see it. They
Right.
hold it.
So much-
Yeah, anybody could play it. Yeah.
Nobody knew it wasn't what it was until it was.
Kirk was like, Eric, you want to see the Bass of Doom? I'm like, sure. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. And it didn't look anything like
you were
Well, the guy
Right.
from Florida redid it or something.
yeah, that guy. Yeah.
A guy.
Yeah, after he threw it over the amp and it exploded. That was the story, right? He tossed it over the wrong amp. He had 2 acoustic 360s set up at this point in the 80s, and part of the shtick of the show was he would end it by tossing the bass over one of the rigs to someone who was waiting behind it to catch it. And I don't know if he was fucked up or he just forgot which amp or whatever. This was like,
No.
you know, and tossed it to there was no one there, and the bass just smashed into a million pieces behind the amp. So they rebuilt it, and he hated it after it came back. He was like, it doesn't feel anything like it used to, and he just didn't give a shit about it anymore.
What do you play after that?
Random Fenders. You see him. You see videos in the late
Fret-
'80s.
fretted.
He's on a fretted one. He's on a random fretless. He's playing all different types of things. That Jerry Jamot video. He's playing some random fretted one. People were lending him bass. You know, it's Jocko. It's like, who's not going to let Jocko borrow your? I mean, after he threw it over the amp, I would have been like, sorry,
You
Jocko.
would think it would be the opposite.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, he's such a legend. Everyone's like, yeah, play my bass.
And then it was just used basses worth hundreds of dollars, not worth, it wasn't $20,000, 60.
Oh, as far as the value of
Yeah.
vintage Fenders
It was-
back then, yeah, but yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
it just looked like a beat up old bass, right? That nobody really cared about it.
yeah,
You know, I think a really important thing that we should touch on is that, you know, when we got together, when Moss was here too, before he left, you know, Moss had all this experience in Rudy's and, you know, dealt with the best of the best, went to Japan. James and I grew up in New York City. He grew up in every single guitar store from an early age, and we all brought something to the table. Maybe we all had a little bit of from me, I had a little bit of chip on my shoulder about shit. So I was getting really jaded, man. I mean, I've been hitting the same streets with the same store since I was a little kid, pushing my strings without a lot of like progress. And maybe it was a competition, but I started to understand the psychology of a lot of store owners. And like, I don't really have time to sell strings. I don't really want to, you know, I just want to hand something over. I was like, well, it's an important part of your gig, right? I mean, it helps pay for the lights. He goes, yeah, I sell strings all the time. So I was like, I don't understand the connection there, you know? So I got pissed off, and we found this opportunity when we had to move from Robert's place, right? Wait a minute, like we could all come together and do what we've been talking about. It was a dream to have a shop, our own shop, bring our own personal experience into it. And I could finally sell my strings exclusively out of a shop and try to beat all my customers / competitors in one fell swoop. And we did that a lot because, you know, James has a pretty thriving like repair and setup business where we get new people coming to the shop all the time, and James is introducing the product to them all the time. And it's been like a great formula to get.
They don't have
new
a
strings.
choice.
You don't have a fucking choice.
yeah,
This is what we use.
You get what
This
you
is-
get.
If they come in with
You know?
like their elixirs, so you're like, nope.
I don't know what those are.
Never heard of them, you
I
know?
don't know. I don't know. I don't trust those.
You know?
never
And-
heard of them.
And like we were just talking before, it's like, oh, people don't necessarily make the connection on their own why strings are so important, or why do I hate my bass so much? Well, your bass is unhappy, man. It's not. It's your bass doesn't have the right fucking strings on it. Put the right strings on it, and then
Or put on the right way most of the time.
Yeah.
because
you
that's
know.
a big thing. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, it's like, whoa,
Yeah.
you know, or set up really. It has to
Yeah,
be set
a
up
little
nicely.
setup can go a long
You know,
way.
so it's
Yeah.
like we are also in the business to educate people.
Yeah.
You know, and we know our dreams. We put them together and we spit it back out at the city. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, look, this is our fucking
You've got
city.
1,000 years of like instrument building expertise. I would
Yeah.
expect
Yeah.
your family knows.
We're just really obsessed with like I said, with the community, with like just helping people get their instruments to their best like potential, and just playing the best. And it's just really important to us. Like, just you come here, and we're gonna like just treat you the best and give you the best setups and just from experience, you know, and the full thing. And then if you get one of our instruments, we just want to make the best tool for musicians to make art with.
What was our saying? Weren't we gonna have a little saying like only the best or nothing but the best?
I don't remember.
Yeah, you do. Come on. What was our? Oh, fuck, it was good.
It was gonna be like
We kept talking. We
It
talked
was
about
so
it for
good you would
days.
have remembered.
I
it.
know, because we got so much shit. We move on, but I remember for days it was like our thing. It was like, remember?
It'll come back.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's important for us.
yeah.
Well, I think we should touch on then, like, origins of Carbonetti Guitars and how that came about, and you know, where did that begin for you?
Yeah, I mean, it started when my brand was Cobra Guitars.
Okay.
Me and my buddy Eli opened up the shop in the East Village next to the Hells Angels and had a great time with it.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
The next to just the Hell's Angels? Like,
Yeah, they came over all the
headquarters.
time.
Built-in security,
On
man.
7th Street, right?
3rd Street.
Yeah.
Safest block in New York City until they moved. 3rd between 1st and 2nd.
Did they not have a
Third
thing on
between
7th?
first and second. That
No,
says third,
Across
doesn't
from
make
across from the Warwick store, there was a Hell's Angels hangout.
It was always the original one in the city since like the 60s.
60s. It's okay, Mitch.
No, but it was downtown. That's Warwick was downtown.
Well, it's interesting because there's like a
They
motorcycle
were on
club like
7th,
right over
weren't they?
here.
So we like to be close. So these guys are
familiar.
This is built-in security. We're a speakeasy, you
Yeah.
know. So down the street is the Dirty Ones. They've been
Oh,
there
yeah.
since
That's the name
1968.
of the
Yeah.
gang.
Yeah, Spanish biker gang.
They were really nice when I was
They
walking
don't
by.
fuck around.
They're like, I was walking by and I was like, hey, is there like a shop to get like you know, like headache medicine? And they're like, yeah, right over there, boss. And I was like, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And they look tough as fuck.
Yeah, they are. They are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, we're always on the block with a good bike gang.
yeah, it seems to be like a thing.
But that was a fun shop. I remember Billy Gibbons came in one time to the old shop, and the Hells Angels guys, you know, heard, and they're like, "Do you mind if we come over and say hi to him?" I was like, "Hold on." I had to go ask him because could you imagine, like back in '68, you know, you hooked up with my girl.
Yeah, exactly. They shank him. Yeah.
And I asked him, like they all came in. It was
Blood
like
on your
a
hand.
little line. I was like,
Yeah.
"Nice to meet you."
Hell
Oh,
yeah.
that's adorable.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I got to go into the hang once into that building. It was
Oh, you
it was
did?
cool. They were awesome. They were very nice.
Yeah.
They liked rock and roll and
Motorcycles.
Yeah.
but those guys were wild. But Kenny, like one of the family members who lived there, he was security at Bowery Ballroom for like the artist area. So we were always just hanging with him. So it was just really intertwined with the shop and the band. And our shop was always like just the clubhouse
Wait,
for.
like the founder?
No. He was just one of the guys.
Yeah.
It's like, but you know, he grew up in that house, in that building. He's a legend. He's awesome.
This is the shit that I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that New York casual, like, oh yeah, that happened.
Yeah.
Thing you know about them.
But the shop was fun. Like we would be open at noon and then work until 10 and then go out. And then at 4 a.m. the shop would be back open, sometimes grill. And then Jeff would be running the grill. We'd just bring everybody back from the bar.
Sick.
And then hang out, listen to records, and then open up the shop the next day. And that was like every day. I sold most of my guitars between midnight and 4 a.m. The shop was just to build. There was no retail.
Yeah.
I went out. I was like door to door salesman, bar to bar.
Bar to bar salesman.
In the right part of New York City too.
Yeah.
Everyone was like a player.
Seriously, even to this day, we can go to any bar anywhere in the city, and I'm like, oh, I've never seen this bar before. We walk in, they're like, Jimmy Carbonetti, oh! He's like the fucking mayor of the bar.
See that? That was my experience. Like,
I swear, right?
the
It's
first
real.
time I went out with you, like,
Yeah.
We had
went
some
to like
fun.
3 different places, and they're all like, Jimmy.
Yeah.
I'm like, of course.
I don't think this guy spent $1 on alcohol.
See,
in
that's
the
where
last
my
30
politics
years.
are in.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I call
It's really
Yeah,
impressive.
yeah, exactly.
I call
really
it
impressive.
The prince of
Shaking
the Lower
babies,
East Side.
kissing
Yeah,
He's
he's
the
like
prince
the
of-
mayor of the bar
Yeah.
scene. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
But you know,
The prince of the Lower East Side.
it's important for the shop, and it's the whole thing. It's like transparent of that's who we are of the shop, and that's who we are out of the shop, and just musicians and doing our thing, just trying to bring people into the club, of us. And then, then
You had
later,
the shop over there.
Yeah, that was on the East Village. Then we went to Robert James, menswear shop on Orchard. So you'd walk into a suit shop, and then you'd go to the third floor, and it'd be me and Moss would be up there making instruments. And it's funny because he would come, and I would always be on tour, because I would be on tour 5-6 months out of the year with Caveman. So, and then Moss would just hold down the fort.
Right.
And then, so he would always come, but never.
Well, yeah,
we never met. I never met him in that shop.
No, that's when I had met Eric, and Eric would come in like every couple weeks, I don't know, and be like, I got strings for you, like, come hang out. And I'd come down to Orchard Street, and the first time I stood outside, like, where the fuck am I? There's no guitar
Gotta follow
store
the
here.
weed.
Yeah, and I eventually, and I'm looking at the address, like, this is the address he told me. And I walked in, it's like a clothing store. I'm like, is there like a guitar shop? And they're like, oh yeah, upstairs. And I was like, oh. And I went in the back, there's stairs. I go up the stairs, and all of a sudden, smells like delicious weed. And I'm like, oh, I'm at the right place. And I come in, there's Moss like doing his thing, and then Eric would come hang, and they'd always talk about Jimmy, James, Jimmy. And I'm like, where is this fucking guy? Is he even real?
He's like one of those fake people that they like mess with you.
But he was just always on the road back then. So I ended up, even though we were hanging out for like at least a year
I never met you at that shop.
I never met him until they moved to 34th Street over here.
So that was 2015, and that was when we made the Guitar Shop NYC, and that was like our umbrella of what we were doing.
Yeah.
And it's been going since, was it 7-8 years?
What did we do?
20
we
years?
established
15.
2015.
75 years.
Right?
That would be 9 years. right?
Jesus
This year.
Christ.
Something like that. A lot of growing pains.
Yeah.
When we moved
We called
in,
our pirate ship. You're
Shit, man.
You're seeing the sails.
yeah.
when we moved in, it was a shared space. We were subleasing. So you walk through a hair salon
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that actually.
to get to our.
That was so cool.
Well, upstairs
It
was
was
a
so
photo,
random.
Upstairs
Yeah.
was a photo studio, and in between the thing you'd walk through us to get to our shop would be like the salon,
Yeah.
and changing room. So a lot of times there would just be a bunch of naked people,
Yeah.
and then
Models,
you'd
yeah.
Yeah.
and that's
Smoking
why we
cigarettes.
kept our door glass. It was great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really cool actually. With all
then-
the sinks with
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it was like this hot Italian chick like doing her mom and her friend's hair.
It was really funny.
And then we kicked all of them out.
Yeah,
And
we
we
did.
took over the whole spot and said,
Yeah.
thank you for your services. Boosh.
Right.
Kick rocks.
And we started aggressively transforming that shop to what you saw when you would come in there.
Then we did our guitar shows there.
Guitar, yeah, we did great guitar
Lords of
shows.
the low end. That was
Yeah.
super fun.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna do that again in the fall, I think. Lords of the Low End, right, was something when you so many bass players, and I sold strings to so many of these bass makers, with their own labels and everything, private label stuff. We basically like snapped a finger, and everyone's like, "What are you doing? We want to be part of it."
Yeah.
It was like with Lords of the Low End, it's like a high-end electric bass show, where we invite people from all over the world, and they do come from Japan, London, Germany, everywhere to participate for a one-day show, and we have live music and everything there. But people get to come and shake the hands of their bass heroes who make their whatever it is, their Spectres or their MTDs or Foderas or whatever.
It's like mini NAMM for bass players
players,
in
yeah.
New York. It's
Excellent.
like dream come true for people like us.
And this
Yeah.
is happening once a year?
Since COVID, we
Yeah.
haven't done it since COVID.
COVID kind of fucked us
Yeah.
a little bit, but
But,
it was every year.
Every year, it was
Yeah.
annual for sure, and we're gonna
Used
have
to
it
do
again
it
in
at
the
the
fall.
cutting room. That's
Cutting
where I
room,
went
yeah.
to the first one.
Yeah, yeah.
Was the cutting room.
Maybe do it again there one day.
Oh
But
yeah.
Yeah. Thinking about that, definitely. Yeah, a lot of fun stuff came out of it, and then we ended up representing a lot of instrument builders that didn't get any representation in big box stores like Guitar Center or Sound Ash or something like that.
Yeah, like LEH Guitars. That's how I met Ellis.
Right. Oh, no way. That's so cool. I didn't know that. All right.
2019.
Yeah.
When she was working for Sadowski?
No. Ellis just went out and started making their own guitars.
On her own on 2019.
Yeah.
That was 2019, yeah.
Yeah, right before the move to Portland.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Great bass builder for sure.
Yeah, wasn't that a specific event where we had like people from all over the world come? That wasn't was that a Lords of the Low End, or was that like a specific?
Yeah, we did like different levels of it, where it's
Yeah.
more like local sometimes.
Right. Lords of the
Right.
Low End, I feel like was more
Oh,
local, but
we
then
would
we did
do-
like a worldwide one.
We did bass builder shows.
Yeah.
You know, where it was just concentrating on the builders themselves.
Right.
And they could mingle.
People
and
came from
everything.
Europe, people came from Japan, and then just left stuff here and were like, thanks.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So
we just had all these crazy basses from countries, no one had heard of these brands. Some had never heard of these brands in the States.
it was a risk, and we decided, it's like we wanted to take things slow. We don't know if it was going to be a successful like project or not, having our own shop. But we realized very quickly there's so many generous like players who were just like, hey, take my amps, take my basses, take my Strat, whatever it was. Like,
Yeah.
we believe in you guys. We want to be part of what you're doing. And overnight, we had hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of gear that we didn't pay a single cent for.
Yeah.
And we turned around and helped them sell it and represent their brands and their new brands and whatever, and the old ones.
Yeah.
So, we made good on those promises, and we rolled from there.
Sick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was fun.
So what's the future look like for Guitar Shop NYC?
Oh, wow. Well, we have a new shop, right? We moved in here, in October or September or something?
Yep.
It's bigger, it's meaner, it's more like outfitted to build instruments. So the main idea is that we're going to crank out more instruments.
Yeah.
We're only curating specific instruments to sell, but the idea is to just like blow the roof
Yeah,
off this
it's
thing.
way more focused
Yeah.
on Olinto and
So being an
Carbonetti.
Olinto, like essentially becoming like turning this into like an Olinto showroom.
I mean,
No, it's like a factory, a guitar factory.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, the shop?
Yeah.
Yeah, our main focus is building our own instruments and, selling strings. We're just focusing
Yeah.
on us
Us.
right now.
Yeah.
And people that we care about, we have MTDs here, your guys' stuff, every stuff that we care about, but we're not going to be aggressively like pushing. And that's our main thing and main difference of a guitar shop.
Yeah.
You're not going to come here and you're not going to get a sales guy pushing you on anything.
Yeah.
We're just here to let you know, to enlighten you with what we're doing, and like come
Yeah.
join the club of greatness,
Right.
and feel free to play anything. We're going to be in their building. Check out
Right.
stuff.
It's got a
Come
price
play some
tag.
of the
It's for
best.
sale.
Yeah.
We love it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. We'll
You've done this before.
Yeah.
You know what this is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go plug it in, and we had Freer and Trickfish, and like just people that we care about that are making cool stuff, and then just come check it out.
people come in. Our thing is take your time.
Yeah.
Have a great time.
Yeah.
Do your thing. Plug into whatever you like.
Go play some Golden Tee.
We're over. We're over here.
Yeah.
We're over here.
Yeah, like
go-
the little
go
the
putt.
putt
Yeah, the
golf
little
over
putt.
there.
I make
Green.
putters now with the Tulon, so it's also business.
There you
know?
go.
To show, like, to showcase the putter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they're there.
Yep.
Why don't you
I
tell them
got
about the
it
project you're?
lined up.
Yeah, I
you
got a
just did?
new putter coming out with the Tulons in April. So a Carbonetti Tulon putter with the Meadow Club, like this really special golf course in Fairfax, California.
Yeah.
So we went there. It's Alistair Mackenzie's first course from 1927.
Wow.
And we went there with these guys. They're amazing. And we got to pick out a tree that they were cutting down already, that's been there forever. And then I basically bring wood back into golf. So made these wooden plates that go in the bottom of these putters. And I did a matching guitar with the top of the guitar from that same tree.
Yeah, it's sick.
It's wild.
So and I just shipped it
we
out
should make
today.
sure we get B-roll of that.
Yeah, so
sure.
I'll show you guys some stuff. And
Is that on the Carbonetti website? I can buy
Yeah.
their putter drop down
No,
tab?
that's through
Oh,
them.
yeah,
It's
and
only
it's super exclusive.
it's very
too.
limited.
Hard
It's
to
like a
get.
lottery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very limited.
Well,
Yeah.
'cause, you know, my grandfather's 82. He golfs 3 times a week. I'm thinking that might be a cool thing. but,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
exclusive enough.
Join the lottery. So you know it gets released and you go on the Tulon website and you basically put your name in the hat
Yeah.
and it gets randomized when it's done and you get an email.
So it's not even first come, first serve.
No.
It's randomized.
Uh-huh.
It's a very
Wow, it
interesting
really is a
email list.
lottery.
When you look through it, you're like, Joe Schmo is competing with the Sultan of Brunei for this fucking cover.
You know who got the last? Was one of the guys? Charles Schwab.
Wow.
I thought he was a guy from like the 1800s, like a J.P. Morgan. Like he's like, no, he's still playing golf. He's Charles Schwab.
Right.
Bought
He's a 450-year-old vampire still playing golf.
At night.
the Reverb.com was founded by David Call. David Call bought Chicago Music Exchange
Right.
a little bit before he founded Reverb, and his previous company was Options Express, which is like an online trading platform. And Charles Schwab bought it for like $1.65 billion.
Crazy.
Shit like that.
Wow.
But I too
Yeah.
I always thought that Charles Schwab was just like an
A
old
name.
guy.
He's a guy.
Yeah.
He's a guy.
Wow,
Wow.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's
it's
sick.
crazy.
He got one. My buddy James Dolan's, he's putting with one. You know, just a couple of New York guys.
Yeah.
Fucking casual New York guy.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's sick.
I feel like we haven't really spotlighted Mitch in this whole conversation. Jimmy walked in, took over the mic, and
Hey.
That's just
That's
what
what
he does.
happens. That's
What a
that's
bully.
the Carbonetti effect.
what was he came? Hey, Jimmy!
Yeah. Oh.
All right, I'll go again. Get out of here.
I know we've heard lots of terms of like what your role is like a product experience liaison
Yeah.
tester.
Yeah, I don't really think I
AR.
have a role. I think it's just we're
just the guy.
We're bros.
Just a
and
dude.
We just make it happen. And I just love being a part of it.
You're like the Kramer. You just come in and
That's
I
exactly
think
what I am.
definitely product development,
Well,
artist
yeah,
relations.
just over the years we've come
Yeah.
up with stuff,
Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
there was no formal anything.
Yeah.
I mean,
But that's also how we connected too, of just like me and you being professional musicians and being both on Eric's shoulder, me and Mitch, like the devil and the angel, and we both switch who's who.
Well, yeah, especially once I realized how easy, like we have direct access right here. It's like
We can
I
mold
can just
him in any
tell
way.
him shit and he'll listen. Like, of course we're gonna do that. Yeah. So I mean,
You're doing it all wrong, Eric. I'm sorry.
no, never
Sorry.
wrong. But
Yeah.
yeah, but it's just one of the perks of having friends that do stuff like this. And you know, I want to see Labella be successful. I want to see Carbonetti be successful. I want to see Olinto be successful. And I have been doing the bass thing for long enough that I mean, I always love telling this story because I used to like shit on Olinto when I first heard about it before I was friends with these guys.
Yeah.
I read about it in Bass Player magazine, and like I said, I'm picturing Labella to be this like empire of a company.
I wish.
And I'm reading about like a multi-$1,000 P bass that I'm picturing like a cookie cutter assembly line doing
Right.
this, and I'm like, these guys are out of their fucking minds if they think they're gonna sell a
Right.
cookie cutter P bass like for that kind of price. Like what? And I didn't give it a second thought. Like I never thought I would ever be playing an Olinto or whatever.
Right.
And then we got to know each other over the years. I had a scare at an airport with my 61 Precision bass where the airline lost it for a second. And they found it pretty quickly, but I freaked out. Like my whole life flashed before my eyes.
Right.
And I said, I can't fly with, I'm an idiot for flying with this thing. Like,
Yeah.
so I called Eric and said, do you think like Moss would make me like an exact copy of my 61 as an Olint? Because now I realize like these aren't cookie cutter basses. Like there's real luthiers like carving shit by hand, and like it's a serious.
Yeah, we were getting weird in the.
Yeah, I mean, just
shop.
I had no idea once I finally realized like it's a tiny little like not only is Labella like a small family company, but like Olinto's even smaller. It's just a couple of dudes in a shop like carving shit. Like this is sick. Yeah. And I've played a million Fender, you know, I don't want to say copy, boutique-ish, you know, Fendery basses over the years, and none of them ever really hit the way like a vintage Fender hits.
Yeah.
And I called him, said, can Moss copy my 61 Fender? And he was like, oh, yeah, maybe, but why don't you come down to the new shop and try this bass that we just made? Like we just finished it. And I picked it up, and my mind was completely blown. It was one of the nicest P basses I've ever played in my life.
Which one was it, by the way?
It was that like
the red one.
Like it was like that almost root beer looking
one.
red one with the really skinny neck. Yeah,
Tortoise pickguard.
It was white.
White pickguard.
White guard.
We called it the Coca-Cola bass.
Yeah, and I picked it up, and in 30 seconds, I was like, this is one of the best basses I've ever played. And I've played thousands of basses.
Right.
I was like,
So
what?
deep candy apple red.
Yeah, exactly.
It looked like Coca-Cola out of glass.
And the idea was to only use it when I'm traveling or touring or whatever, and very quickly, I just stopped playing my Fender completely. And this was my main bass. And then come up with ideas like, hey, let's do like a roasted neck and a roasted body, and what about Brazilian rosewood? And he was like, oh, yeah, okay. I still play that bass today. It's the nicest P bass I've ever played in my life. And I was like, not only are these guys amazing people, but like the bass world needs to know that like there is something brand new that's just as good, if not better in certain ways, than a vintage Fender that you can buy for thousands of dollars less.
Yeah.
Like I want to help get that word out, because I've spent so many dollars and so many years playing all these things, trying to get that thing that sits in the mix perfectly, but feels old, but like doesn't have truss rod problems, or you know, whatever,
like
all the
keeping
fucking problems that come with like these beautiful vintage basses. Like it's rare that they're perfect, and then when they are perfect, it's because they weren't really played, and then they don't have the same feel or sound that the really played ones have, and you're just like always looking for that thing. So these were giving that to me, and they were like brand new, but felt like old and sounded old. And I A-B'd vintage Fender pickups I had with the pickups Moss was winding, and I was like, these are sitting in a mix better. And I've got pro engineers that are like, no man, use the gold one. Like the gold one sounds better. And just, you know, it was like, there's something here, and I want to like help these guys get this word out. So originally it was just like anything you need from me. If you want me to like demo things on camera I helped start the Instagram. I was like, we have no social media presence. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Like, let's make more content and get videos out and show people what these things sound like. And I'll help, if people hit me up, I'll help put orders in and get it to Eric, you know, just whatever we can do to like grow it. And then it's been growing exponentially since then. So now I live close by. Like I see these guys all the fucking time, you know, I love hanging. So it's like, what can we do to just keep it moving? And
I feel like we're here most days together until whatever.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm not working, because I'm usually gigging. I have gigs Sunday through Thursday. I mean, winter is sort of the slower season for me, so I get to spend more time here. But summertime, it's like just usually Fridays or whenever I'm around. If I have a day off, like I'm coming to hang at the shop, and there's always something to do here.
Oh, yeah.
And then string wise, I mean that the whole Olinto flat was sort of just like a cool project that we wanted to do, and it fucking worked.
Works really well.
Like when things work, it's like really, really nice.
We took a different approach to building those.
Yeah.
Thin cores, fat gauges, and it was so different.
Yeah.
We created something completely different out of this huge line of flats we make, and that's impressive.
Yeah.
You know, when you do something like that, that's different. That
I mean, for me at least, it's really cool to think like LaBella's been around for so long and has made these like legendary strings that like all the heroes have used for like so long, and then for me to like come along and be like, hey, like I'm thinking something like this, why don't we try this, and I feel like that would work, and then it works and people are loving it, and it's like different than anything they've done before. It's like, wow, I got to like add to that little like LaBella history.
It's a part of the
thing.
history,
like,
yeah. You know?
Like that's crazy.
But the longer the history, the smaller the part you have, right? Like you're in.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did absolutely nothing.
Of course, I'm like a nothing little pubic hair in the scheme, but
last
like,
drop of piss.
Stop,
but
you're
what
not.
if in 200 years from now, when we're all dead, somebody else is trying to bring back the Olinto flats?
There was that
because-
time Mitch did the thing, and now we got to figure.
Yeah,
There's a lot of video content.
right. Somebody
The Mitch
finds
era.
a video on YouTube, and they're like, "This fucking guy, like, what were those strings?"
And if I could mention, about you brought up the origin story, there was this really cute young man at Chicago Music Exchange named Mark, who was a really big part, in my opinion, to get us out there to the next level. So thank you very much. No, it's
Hell yeah.
true, dude.
The Mark
It's-
era.
You have like hundreds of fucking years.
No, dude, I'm telling you, when we
Yeah, but in
first
the modern
started, when we
time of,
first
like,
when we were first starting with the
social media
Olinto
stuff.
basses, right? We sent two. He saw two of them. He goes, Eric, I need those in the shop.
But we never sent them. We still barely we don't deal with anybody.
Yeah, it's like, you know,
Yeah.
we dealt with Chicago Music Exchange and everything else was very personal, but you were really integral in like making the first demo videos. We didn't have any professionally shot demo videos
Right.
until
the 59 style one.
before Mark
Yeah.
did it.
Mm-hmm.
And
God, that thing was so good.
you did it,
a
and
good one.
and we use that as an example, and people use it as an example who never played the bass before and decided to put orders in.
Yeah.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
That was a big part
Yeah.
of it.
Fucking bass, dude.
Yeah.
No, that's
Where's your order?
that's,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's good to hear. I'm glad. Like I was really happy to watch it grow because having the luxury of being surrounded by old ass instruments at that time,
Yeah.
like just being able to compare the two, like it was just such an obvious choice. Like when
Cool,
as
thank
soon
you.
as I played, I'm like, this feels exactly like the
Yeah.
59 we've got here.
Yeah.
And that's where I felt lucky of like growing up in the vintage shops. Like me and Moss both had that, just like him working at Rudy's and then me working at Chelsea
Yeah. The
Guitars
amount
and
of
that.
knowledge is
And
just crazy.
And then owning vintage and touring with vintage and then putting that into how we make our instruments. Most people have never felt a 58 burst or a 58 P bass or
Right.
a 54 Strat. Like,
And look how many luthiers don't play also, which is
It's an
always
interesting-
like bugged the shit out of me.
Here's an interesting little just side quest to that point. A few weeks ago, I get a random text from Holger Stoniak from Sandberg Guitars, the CEO. He's my boss. Mm-hmm. He was like, "Look at this. It turns out there's a radio station in Chicago who's been playing this record I've been doing, or like one of the singles from this record that I was on, and it's like the number one requested one on this radio station in Chicago, 88.1." And I was like, "That's fucking awesome!" But I'm looking at the screenshot because they posted their top 10 for that month, and then I noticed number 6 was Paul Reed Smith's band, and I was just like,
Wait, what?
yeah, and like he's got fucking like Dennis Chambers, Gary.
he plays
Willis?
a lot.
No, I'm sorry, not Dennis Chambers, Gary Granger on bass and stuff.
Huh.
So like a great band.
plays out live.
But they're like 6th, And so my buddy who works for PRS, I sent him a screenshot, and I was like, I see Paul's on this 88.1 list, and Holger is number 1, so you could tell Paul that Sandberg said suck it.
Hell yeah.
They should do a tour together.
I love it.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. Builder's tour.
Battle of the
I listen to
Bands.
the Laurie Smith stuff. It's great.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. They were both on that list.
Yeah.
It was so
Weird.
random. Like I was like, I had no idea that was like.
Don't make me get out the caveman list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's important, like the playing and the building.
Makes sense.
It's
Makes sense.
just
Or
goes full
having
through.
a really close, like a really good engineer's mindset, who you have a good.
Well, that's Leo Fender.
That's what I'm saying. You
Right.
have a good relationship
trust.
with artists.
But it's just interesting to me that one could be such a talented luthier or wanna be in that world and not play.
But it is also kind of normal. Like, how many F1 car builders drive an F1 car?
Well, even in the music world, like David Norchow of Eden David only has one arm. Like, that guy can't play a bass and yet built incredible bass amps. I
bet he could.
Interesting.
Get him a Chapman stick.
Maybe. He's doing a lot of stuff for the military, some weird stuff in Chicago.
awesome.
Chat.
Yeah,
Okay,
well, I
working
mean,
on some
electrical
submarines and-
engineering, I feel like, is a little different,
Sure.
though. It's
But, like-
kind of similar, but, like, it's a little less of that.
I don't know
it's
that
not
I've ever
as soul. I don't know.
have I seen, like, I don't think I've ever seen like Roger Sadowski play a bass, Joey Federa ever play a bass, Vinny.
Joey
Well,
plays all the
Vinny-
time.
Vinny's a
Joey's the shit.
guitarist.
Yeah.
I've seen Joey play bass a ton of times.
Yeah.
He played last
Joey's
night.
the bass player.
Yeah.
Okay.
He played in Park Slope. He plays in Park Slope a
Yeah,
bunch.
Joey's a good bass player.
right.
Vinny only plays
Carl
guitar,
Thompson
I
plays.
think.
Plays.
Carl
Yeah.
Thompson does.
Uh-huh.
I know Capolo doesn't play.
Holger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Hey.
yeah. Leo didn't play.
No, but he had great redneck friends that will
Well, no,
play
I mean, if you're not
ripping
playing, you
tellies,
better
like-
be surrounded by
Right.
fucking friends who do, because that's
Who you
where your
trust
input's
also.
gonna
Yeah.
come from, and yeah.
Because if you're listening to the wrong person, next thing you know, you're making some weird.
For sure. I just feel like if I was building instruments, like, it would kill me to not be able to then like play the shit out of it.
Yeah.
Like, I
Oh,
feel
yeah.
like
What are you-
they would go hand in hand.
Yeah.
You'd think, yeah, you're chasing
And maybe you're not
some
the best
dragon,
player
yeah.
ever, but at least enough to like enjoy playing your own
mean,
work, you know?
It really helps with setup and like work on people's instruments of just like, all right.
Yeah, I mean, it's proof. This is proof of it, you
Yeah.
know? I mean,
Like I
got a
just
leg
think it's
up.
like a different thing. It's just like some people set up instruments with measurements and numbers and
for
gauges.
sure. And some
I don't
go by
measure
feel.
anything.
Yeah.
You know, it's
For sure.
there's no right and wrong. It's all
No, it's whatever
however
you want,
it
but
is.
experience and things like that help you do it without number. You just know what you're looking for.
yeah. And if you
How
can just
it should
hand somebody
feel.
an instrument over that, like I know this plays perfectly. Check it out.
Right.
There's that. I think that's a big difference with these instruments. They're like just set up like no other.
Yeah.
You know, just how
Setup
just
is
the
so
attention to
important, too.
detail, like how we do the nut and our frets, and like those are really important because you close your eyes and those are the things that you're feeling and you can't really explain.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you can't explain the feeling of a fret job. You kind of can, but like you're just trying to make something that you don't have to think about.
Right.
Right.
You don't want to feel your instrument. You don't want to even think. You're trying to suit the song.
Right.
Song's important. The instrument's just a tool, so you need the best thing you can get.
Well, I mean, it's funny because, like, for a long, I've had so many pre-CBS Fenders that I would always say, like, oh, this one's going to the grave with me.
Right.
And, like, after being a part of this team for so many years now and seeing, you know, getting the inside, really watching what he's doing and how
Yeah.
and now I realize, like, how important the nut is and, like, taking care of the frets on the sides that
Yeah.
you don't really feel it, you know? And now I play pre-CBS Fenders and I'm, like, appalled
Yeah.
by, like, how wide they cut this nut that, like, the E is practically going off the board here, or, it just feels way wider than and we've even measured with the caliper like to see like how big is this, and it's like the same size as Olinto, yet somehow the Olinto feels super comfy and tight, and the Fender feels like
Well, I'm obsessed with like making everything feel soft and round too, just like
but that's what I'm saying is those little things in detail end up changing so much of like how you feel this instrument and how easy it is to play, and just like the pleasure of playing it, and it just changed my whole perspective. And now that's how I judge all instruments now, is like, well, what's the nut like?
Let me feel the nut. Let me feel the nut.
yeah, cough.
Yeah, exactly. Turn your head and cough.
I want to touch on like what is the confused isn't the word, but like uncertain of what the relationship between Labella and Olinto is. Like, are they
It's like this.
Yeah.
Well, did
the official
Labella
name is
start that,
The
or
official name is Olinto by Labella.
Right.
okay?
So
It
it's
still
Labella. Yeah. So it's,
I was gonna say, what is
we
it now?
you guys
But
tell you guys?
Olinto is a person.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my
Right.
great grandfather.
Yeah, I
This
meant
was
to hear you
Eric's
say that, and I was like,
project.
oh, well, that's a thing that
It
sparked.
was.
in my
I wanted to
mind.
do something different than just make strings.
Okay.
I wanted to mix it up. I wanted to have an avenue where if people weren't playing Labella, shit, maybe they play my basses. I could bridge those gaps, and we have. There's plenty of guys who play Labellas who are maybe endorsed by other string companies, oddly enough. But that was it. And I had the fellow pirates ready to back up the idea and make it happen. And it's been like a great vehicle for us to help expand everyone else's role in the shop and everything else. It gave us a home when we were like, when I saw my brothers like having to move, I was like, well, I'm as much, in this as they are, even though I didn't have part in that repair business and their builds. I was like, oh no, we're not going out like that. Let's get my family to the table. My father and my sister, who are also in the Labella family, and I was like, guys, we have an opportunity here to expand these little few bases that we've made into something bigger with the guys, and it's do or die now, because if we don't do it now, they have nowhere to fucking go, and neither do I.
Yeah.
We put a lot of time and energy in this fledgling project already, and it was a green light. Like, fuck, let's give it a shot. And I was like, and I want to shove all my strings down, all those stores that didn't want to carry them down their throats, and make sure that, they knew we existed. Yeah. And
It's a spite shop.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
It's a spite shop. It's a spite shop. Very well put. The chips on the shoulders are huge. The spite is real.
Yeah.
Hey, sometimes it's like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, you have to vilify some motherfuckers to be the champion. That's how he was. He
The
didn't
pirate
have
shop.
players on the court. I don't know if you saw his documentary. Be like, I had no beef with Michael, and he basically sometimes fabricates stories to hate your fucking guts, to beat your ass. I never fabricated any stories, but I sure was full of that piss and vinegar too.
That's great.
Or the
also-
young guy who would be like, I made a shot on you, and then Mike will just terrorize
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
for sure.
But it's
He'd
New
score
York.
45,
Having a shop in New York isn't for the light of heart.
No,
It is.
Anywhere in
absolutely
the
not.
world.
Right.
Yeah.
But
It's a really hard
especially
gig.
here,
It's tough.
Choppy waters.
But also, I think the whole Labella Olinto thing is a great, like we were talking about earlier. People don't think about the strings and how that's like an original thing, like a Fender with the Labella strings is like part of the sound. This is like a
Well, they
great.
made Leo strings back in the 50s. So
No,
it's
I know
like,
that's we were talking about that before
Yeah.
you were here. So that's what I'm saying. Like to make the basses now with the string, it's like a great way to remind everyone like this was the shit back in the day. Like, and we're making them as good, if not better, than the Fenders that were there back in the day with those same strings. Like this is a modern way to get that exact sound that everybody wanted back then.
with
like,
a dual,
done right.
with like a dual acting truss rod, with like the
we've made all the
functionality of, like,
improvements on what could have been. We're
just
doing
from
it
touring,
right.
we've all had
Yeah.
busted, necks or whatever. Things happen, but having the experience of touring and that stuff, we can make something like I think we're obsessed with that, like making something feel not even just beat up. That's just for your eyeballs, but like broken in, and like how the neck is feeling.
Yeah.
How many coats of lacquer? Like I'll only spray lacquer and like really thin, and like just those
There's a
recipes.
lot of magic in that too.
Yeah.
How he does
and
the
then
paint.
you open your eyes and see something really cool is the last part of the piece, but the feeling of the instrument that's the most important part. You know, that and it's got to be tuned perfect, you know, and able to do that. You don't want to think about tuning, sound, or feel. Then everything else is on you.
Yeah.
What do you think, like, the next, year or two is the future for Olinto basses? Is there any, just continue to manufacture or?
Keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're growing.
Yeah.
And keeping up with the demand, I think, is the hardest part at the moment.
We
Are
just
you in
moved.
stores right now?
I have no idea.
No.
We've taken a really different trajectory than most traditional bass companies have. We deal with 90% of our customers personally.
We're like farm to table basses.
Also, it's
A gift and
really
a curse, I'm
crazy
sure.
Yeah, big time.
how we like. There aren't really Olintos like in stores out there, and it's
Or
kind
even
of
the used
We
market.
have a weird
there's
phenomenon.
barely a
going on.
used market. It's kind of crazy how many instruments we make just based on like, I heard this clip or I saw this picture, take my money.
Yeah.
And
It's been weird.
It's pretty crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
personally, myself,
It's
I
crazy.
would not do that.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But so many people do that, and everyone's happy with their bass. Like, it's really wild.
I mean, we have the Labella infrastructure, so like we ship everywhere and anywhere ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're very independent in that respect. Like, to be honest, is like, we work really, really hard. Sometimes giving away those margins to other people is a little difficult.
Yeah.
Like I'll say it out, and I know that's a big concern for some makers, but there are costs and involved in making something so handmade that it's hard to kind of give away less than it's worth.
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be the growing trajectory anyway for a lot of companies, is to start doing D2C, like direct to
Yeah.
consumer.
Right.
Yeah.
Same in music. It's all. I feel like it's trending. It's like, I don't know. I feel like now more than ever, everyone's very easy to contact, and like if you want to deal with somebody, you just go deal with them.
We have two dealers. We have they're like in Hong Kong and Beijing.
So
And that's a quite exotic market. It's in the sense like, there's a big language barrier there. There's a big market barrier. Like we don't know exactly what's cooking, but those people certainly do. And we work with them in that part of the world.
That's cool.
And we've been selling quite a few
amazing.
instruments over there.
Yeah.
What's like a lead time on a build right now?
Well, right now we're still like in the interim, like we're still building out the shop, interestingly
just
enough.
moved.
Yeah.
And so lead times are still floating around 10 to 12 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
solid.
It's solid. Sometimes people don't want to wait, and but
Dude,
they come back.
That right now, Sandberg's at 22 months.
Really?
22 months.
Wow.
Just orders keep coming in. You
Crazy.
can only-
Yep.
How big?
build
How
so
big is
many.
the team?
There's only so many hours in a day.
There's about like 18 people like building.
Wow.
like, different steps of the process. It's just like
That's
we
a lot.
we can only produce so many
Yeah.
to our standards, right? You all know this, and like scaling up isn't really an option because it's just so unpredictable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, sure. I saw videos of the factory. It's a dream, man.
It's
to
pretty-
die-
Yeah.
It's a die
One of my
for
favorite
place.
things I've ever seen is the wood dust pucks that
You heat the
Yeah,
place.
yeah.
I was like, that is the most German shit I've ever seen, and it's
Why not?
awesome.
Yeah.
Good efficiency.
Yeah, it was like, we don't want any waste. And he makes the little pot, and it saves us on heating bills. I was like, oh, brilliant.
It's good.
Yeah, I wish
It's,
we
it's
did
fun
that
to watch.
here.
It's fun to watch that machine shit those out too.
Totally.
It likes the song.
shit.
Yeah,
Wood
and
shit.
then makes this
Everybody-
perfect little puck
It's
come
just
out.
like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
And then I guess I would ask the same question about Labella. Is there like, I mean, you've been doing it a long time.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
It's like a big ship that probably turn
Well,
slowly.
man,
Well, we're thinking about going back into bells.
Bells are cool. Making manholes and bells.
Manhole.
That, it's such a competitive industry.
Yeah.
There's a lot of aggressive new guys. There's aggressive old guys. We're always trying to keep to our guns when it comes to quality, but the ongoing mission is to let the world know where the goods are at, where the good strings are at, and the history of the company. And try to move forward from there. And always be innovative and come up with new things. But the newest thing we came up with, we invented 50 years ago. The pure vintage stuff.
Right.
But look, we have a roadie club. You could go on it via labella.com. That roadie club is really cool because we take a lot of our ideas here that Mitch and James and I come up with, and we express them through the roadie club when they come to fruition. So like our polished strings, our super polished strings, or really wild like white nylon tape strings with all the colors. If you go to roadie club, you get all that stuff. And you're privy to it, even with the Olintos. Olintos come out, you want them at that player direct price that we offer all people around the world, you get them on the roadie club.
Yeah.
It'll
In
be
the-
first access, right?
Yes.
In the very rare moon that there is ever one available.
And that's the one thing we're trying to do. We're trying to make more available to market.
Right. Yeah. That's a goal of mine for the team for like the next year or two is to figure out when to find the time to like make one here and there that we can send out to places.
Well, it's not even just that. It's more just like getting the shop finished and getting back in line, back on full speed track.
Yeah.
We just got another guy in who's been great.
Yeah.
A
yeah,
very
we-
small team.
For like what Mitch said, it'd be like great to offer a bass like to a marketplace, like let's say one day being able to have the opportunity to sell them back at Chicago Music. I mean, what an incredible platform. We just can't do that right now.
Yeah.
Right now we're so focused on just the customers to keep lead times intact that
You
it's
get better margins anyway.
Yeah.
You just grow the business.
No,
You'll be ahead of the
even
curve.
it's not even for me about
just
selling them
eyeballs.
through places.
Yeah,
it's
like-
just getting them in people's
Hands,
hands
yeah.
for the guys like me that are like, well, cool, I want one, but I'm not gonna buy it without
And I
playing
spend
it.
thousands of dollars.
Yeah,
on something
like I
that.
want to feel what it fucking feels like or hear
Yeah.
what it sounds like, and then go, oh my god, they weren't lying. Here's
Right.
my money.
Right.
You know, like I almost don't even care if a shop sell. Like let them keep it as like a demo, but like just let people be able
Right.
to play one. I get so many DMs and guys in Nashville. Like, hey, where in Nashville can I play one of these? Or in LA. Hi, I'm in LA. Where can I find an Olinto? And I have to be like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, call your friends. Like,
Yeah,
like,
maybe
I'm
strategically.
sure somebody has one.
Yeah.
That happens, dude.
Yeah, of course. And
Right.
and they're like, oh, you don't have any dealers? I'm like, no. And they're like, oh.
We had a friend in Vancouver. He had like an Olinto day on his own, invited people.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
So cool.
it
Yeah.
turned out to be pretty cool for us.
I mean, Sire was doing that for a while.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
They were only direct to consumer for a while.
Yeah.
And they had like a few key demographics. Like Chicago was one of them, and had a few artists who had their basses, and they would just like set up little hangs where people can come over and try them out.
That's
Right.
sick.
And then eventually they started bringing on dealers.
Yeah. And then same question for Carbonetti. Where do you feel like the next year, 2 years, any major plans or just continue
Always.
the grind?
Yeah, I mean,
Expand the putter line into
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This year is a big one.
Four
Pivotal
woods.
year. Mitch would
Pivotal.
say.
Yeah, we always say that.
Yeah, we, again with this jerk, came up with. Well, I asked him for the NAMM show, like, what could I bring that would be really fun?
Yeah,
There's
we
kind
were
of
like,
hole.
where's a hole in the bass market right now?
Yeah.
And he was like 30-inch 5-string, just passive, super vintage.
Yeah.
Like, along lines of like how we see Olintos and
Yeah.
just meat and potatoes and what works and
Yeah.
very simple. And I made the Moon Phase bass and it did really well, freaked some people out.
Everybody.
Very, really good.
Every-
Very good
No,
response.
And
Yeah.
the fun part of making really weird instruments is I could be like, Eric, I need this length of string.
Right.
Or whatever. And so then he made me a set of prototype Alinto strings.
Yeah.
So now we have
Right.
short scale versions of
Right.
those. So that, you know, and that bass, you know, freaked some people out. and
Everybody.
So,
It was not a single
This year's
person
gonna
that
be-
came
Yeah.
through that wasn't like, what?
yeah, making
was
more
really
of those
cool.
and more putters and just growing the shop. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I definitely feel like the trend is with a lot, like in the last maybe 3 to 5 years, short scales are starting to like really
Yeah.
take over. I just picked up a Seric 5-string 30.5-inch scale.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
I love
You
Jake.
just
Yeah.
rip on
Jake
those
makes
things.
great stuff.
Yeah, his shop is literally 5 minutes from my house.
Oh,
you know,
cool.
So it was like, we had him on he was the first guest on the podcast
Nice.
ever. And, you know, got to know him through that. He was at the Bass Bash and, you know, we've got to know him pretty well. So I was like, all right, let's go. And for me, like it was, you know, he was like, about 8 months I think it'll take to build the bass, closer to a year. But for me, that was great. Here's $1,000, here's $500, here's $300.
Right.
And by the time it's
Make it happen.
there,
Yeah.
you know, I can just pay it off slowly
Yeah.
over the course of a year, and it makes it a little easier to digest. But yeah, I see a lot of guys, and you know, the Florence bass and the Lionel, you know, short scales.
Yeah, that thing's cool.
Yeah.
Florence is cool.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I see a lot of that.
No,
happening.
short scale's definitely like on its way back for sure.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And then, you know, I was talking to Tim Lefebvre about it when we were podcasting with him, and he had a lot of, you know, input on his Serics and the short scale thing. So if he's doing it,
Yeah.
Must be right.
must be right.
Yeah.
Is there anything we want to add? Do we want to do a rapid?
I don't know if that's possible.
I don't know. I mean,
I feel like that's a good ending point. Like we covered a lot of territory, like the
We did.
history, the origins,
Yeah.
the future. You know, like we like Jimmy was making fun of him for a little bit.
Goes without saying.
You
Yeah.
just took it, and I kind of want you to give it back to him.
He'll get it later.
Get it later.
Yeah.
He'll get a
He always
spanking.
does.
I got no holes.
Pick your own switch.
Yeah,
Hey,
right.
guys, thank you so
yeah,
much.
let
for
us
Thank you
use
guys.
for having us.
all that.
This is great.
and
It's been really great.
We'll put
Yeah.
links to you know, all your stuff and places to find you, and then if somebody's in New York and wants to check something out, you know, just kind of
Mitch's OnlyFans. You know.
Right.
his OnlyFans.
I'm running a special for the next 30
Yeah.
days.
You got a lot, the hair is looking good, man.
Yeah, he's
I
playing
would say.
naked bass.
The Bukkake special.
Yeah. Don't knock it till you try it.
All right, cool. Well, links
for
down
having
below, and thanks again. We really appreciate it. And
Thank you, guys.
we'll
Yeah.
do some stuff in the future.
Come
and-
hang out in Brooklyn.
Hell
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah, we'll
Anytime.
come back for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.
Peace.
All right.